So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions. Welcome to the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more all the way to help MVPs, the most vulnerable people. My name is Brett Swarts. I'm the host today, and each and every episode we're joined by this top world's entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires, and they share their secrets, insights, and wisdom with us. We can all innovate, make a bigger impact, scale, all of the above. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Georgia, and he is an entrepreneur, and he is one who's built multiple successful businesses. And today we're actually going to be talking about turning your daily habits into daily impact, and then we're going to also talk about his company he's currently working on and how you can make it a direct impact on your health. Please welcome to the show with me, Mr. Mark Sterling. Mark, how are you doing?
Amazing, Brett. I wouldn't miss this call for the world. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. For our listeners, get to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Absolutely. You know, I was born at a very young age, right? Sorry, that's my one bad joke. I only got one. We started off, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and I got a chance to leave, join the military. Got out of the military and I didn't know what I wanted to do next. Mm-hmm. Went into, I was always told, go get a good job, went and got a good job. And then I was in, they said, no, you got to go into management, went into management. And I found myself working paycheck to paycheck. And I had these big goals. I wanted to serve people and do more. And I could barely take care of myself. And then someone said, no, you have to go out there and become, upper management and then go into consulting, start your own business. And I finally realized that a lot of companies I couldn't work for because I didn't have a degree. I could start my own company and become a consultant and actually make more and actually help more people. So that's how we got into the entrepreneurial side of it, because what I didn't have to work for them, I had the skill sets and the mindset and the gifts to go out there and actually benefit them. So we started that space there. I remember I was actually working in DC when 9/11 hit, and that was a very, very tough time. We got out of there and took a rental car back, because obviously there were no flights, but I came back to Atlanta. I was getting married the very next month. Can you imagine? I got married October 2001, and yet here I am, have to take a flight to Hawaii, and my business as I knew it went away 100%. It totally went away. And so what I realized very quickly was that even though I owned a company, a consultancy, I really owned the job, because if I didn't work, I didn't get paid. And then here I am thinking a 13-week vacation. And the first thing I'm thinking about on a honeymoon, if you think about it, is I don't have, what am I going to do to create income, because mine has gone away. And so my second joke, if you bear with me, is that I made a request to my wife, and I said, if we ever have a son, his name can't be William, because I didn't want any more bills coming into my house. But that put me on a path where I said I need to work where I have earned or leveraged income, and not just transactional income.
Excellent. I love it. I love the background. I love the story. I love I think the best entrepreneurs typically start, at adversity, right? Yes. Big challenges that you had to overcome. So let's start to bring out some of those daily habits, right? How you turn those into daily impact, and just the mindset behind that. And so we can all get a little bit better today.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So during that time, this inflection point, I was trying to figure out, what do I do next? Because again, the niche that I was in went away 100%, right? And I realized very quickly is that I had to go into a space that money would come in whether or not I worked for it. And so I was looking for something that would create what I believe was passive residual income at the time. And I actually ventured off into the industry of direct sales and network marketing in a very early, I won't say very early age, but someone called me and told me, this is, I hope somebody gets this, Brett. Someone called me and said, I don't believe you would do this, because they knew I was, in their mind, I was successful. I don't believe you would do this, but we have one of these meetings I want you to come to, right? You can't say the wrong thing to the right person, and you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. So you never know. You have to reach out to people that can actually benefit you, right? You don't know where they are on their journey, but if you don't ask you, I always say the best part of life, the best part of life is dictated by the best questions. And you have to ask questions of individuals. And because of those questions that you ask, you can develop what I call collaborations. And collaboration by far and away is the new currency.
Okay, so it sounds like the first habit that you learned along the way is basically learning the leverage of passive recurring income. But by that, I mean asking the question, be willing to step out even though when it's not comfortable. Is that the first kind of big aha that you had?
Yeah, 100%. And you don't know. Sometimes we put the stigma or this wrapping around people, right? For example, you yourself are very successful. Someone may be afraid to even ask you a question because they're not sure what you're going to give them. I don't care what someone says or thinks about me, because public opinion has nothing to do. I'm more afraid of public opinion than I am poverty. I will ask the question. I will get the no's. I will knock on the doors, right? And I will do the things that the average person may or may not do because you're going to get the results the average person may or may not get. I have no problem asking the questions.
Excellent. So number one habit to daily habit is asking the right questions and not being afraid of the public opinion, right? Yeah. And so stepping into that, excellent. What was and that helped you to make some impact and grow, obviously, right? So let's step into maybe the second secret or second habit, daily habit that you try to practice that helps you to have daily impact.
This is going to sound weird for most people, but you can't take this away from me. It's about belief. It's about belief. I believe there are four key pillars to not only believing, but understanding how to grow your belief. Most of us believe that there's a thing called belief. But even in the book that I read, it says that when Peter walked out into the water, right, it said that when he saw his natural environment, that he began to sink. It began to sink. Brett, you and I would not begin to sink. We would just sink. That showed me very, very early. I said, wait a minute, there are levels to believing. So here are the four key pillars, right? One is your environment. What are you around every single day? What are you seeing, right? What is your environment? Your emotions. How do you feel on a regular basis? Because your vibrations will attract the right people. I always say your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Your emotions, your environment, and your words. In the beginning was the word. What are you saying to yourself over and over and over again? It's no different. If I had a clear glass of water and I poured some, and I'm sorry, if I had a glass of Coca-Cola and I poured a little bit of water in it still looks like dark Coke. So the negative thoughts we get over and over again. I call those the ants, all negative things. So if I poured more water, again, it still looks like Coke. But if I continue to just pour and pour and pour clean, healthy thoughts, words over and over again into that glass, at some point it begins to displace all the negative old stuff and I get to where I want to be. So words, images, emotions, and environment. Words, images, emotions, and environment. We got to make sure that we have the images around us. I'll give you an example. I remember we all heard about vision boards, Brett. I didn't use vision boards. I went nuts. I used to create vision environments. When I woke up, I had on my ceiling, I would see pictures of what my homes would look like, what my vacations would look like, what my family would look like. I would have my affirmations written on the mirrors. I would have pictures on my, don't do this, guys, on your dashboard. I would have my affirmations in my wallet. There was nowhere that I went that I couldn't see my future, but it all started with believing.
Amazing. Let's go through those here and just all in quick order, right? So there's levels of belief, right? Okay. And then four pillars to positive believing is environment, or first of all, be aware of it and then make decisions to make it positive. Environment, emotions, words, and images. Yep. I love the analogy of the Coke, right? If you're pouring and if you have negative thoughts, well, how do you get it out? Well, you got to continually flush it out. I also heard in a good book, it talks about, you can have, a pound of wisdom and an ounce of foolishness, right? Can kind of ruin and kind of poison that, whatever that thing is, right? And so, and it's, by the way, it's easy to be negative. It's easy to be the critic outside of the arena, right? It's easy to say what, that's one of my favorite quotes ever, right? It's easy to be the spectator, to say all the things that the doer of the deeds could have done differently or better, right?
100%.
And so talk about getting in the arena, right, and staying in the arena and making sure you're staying in a positive mindset. What's some of the habits that you practice to do that?
The number one habit I practice, especially at the beginning, a lot of people talk about the law of attraction. I had to work on the law of separation. You need a season of separation from the things that don't serve you well. And it could be your family members, it could be existing partners, it could be activities that don't serve you well. And it doesn't mean that they're negative, but it means you must get into an environment that is so much more positive that these other distractions don't impact you. It talks about it in the book, The 48 Laws of Power. There's a great book called It Works. It's a little short read, right? You got this little daily read right there. It works. You got to get that, and you got to understand that what you have to remove yourself away from anything that doesn't serve the mission or the purpose that you're on for a window of time, so that you get laser focused. Matter of fact, even in the book Napoleon Hill's book, good Lord, help me out here.
You Think and Grow Rich?
We could go rich. I'm sorry. Many
Yeah.
times I read that book. He talked about the power of the law of sexual transmutation, where you take all that raw energy and you focus on one place. Matter of fact, chapter 3 in that book is on faith, and there's a few sentences in there that says it defines faith. It said that faith. It says the repetition of orders to the subconscious mind is the only known method to voluntarily develop the emotion of faith. Brett, there are so many things that I didn't know faith was an emotion, and you can heighten it on demand by changing your vibration, speaking affirmations to yourself. It said repetition of orders. That goes back to the book that we read, right? Where it says faith comes by what? Hearing and hearing and hearing. In the book, it says by the word of God. But again, it's still the hearing and hearing and hearing. That repetition of orders to the subconscious mind is the only known method. And here's the key takeaway: to voluntarily develop the emotion of faith. That means there's some involuntary ways. Why do you think big brands like Coke continue to run ads? We know Coke, but they want that repetition of information there so you can make a decision, not only a buying decision, but some kind of decision to influence you. That's why they call that thing that we read, I call it the electric income reducer, the television. It's telling a vision to you so that you can actually buy into it. So what images do you have in front of you? What are you listening to? Repetition of orders, so you can actually be locked in on your faith, and faith is the kissing cousin of belief.
Okay, so everyone, we're speaking with Mr. Mark Sterling, by the way, and we're going to be getting into a little bit of what he does, even practically speaking here. But if you want to go to newspire.com to improve your mindset and your health and your well-being. Okay, so loving it. Okay, good. Yeah, I want to just pull out a couple things, right? The season of separation, get into an environment that you remove from you the negativity that's holding you back from your mission and your purpose, right? I couldn't agree more on that. And I believe that we've all been given a specific work to do on this earth, right? And that work and calling, I can't think enough about Nehemiah, right?
Oh, yeah.
In the good book, when he's up on the wall, right? And then there's those that are the critics outside of the arena, right? That want to pull him down from his mission, pull him down from his purpose, have him come down and just start talking about all of the things. And he's up there, he's like, I don't have time to go down there, and I'm on my mission, and we're gonna complete this wall. We're gonna protect and resecure, for the people, right? This great city. And this is my mission. This is my purpose. This is the calling I have from God to go do this. And I don't have time to be with you guys at this point, but and that's basically it. He doesn't come down from the wall, and he just keeps on keeping on. Talk about the removal part and how you have best practice to say no, or say maybe in another year once I'm done with this part of my mission. Walk us through practically how you have executed on that.
Exactly. And I'll use the term. I'll use the term focus as an acronym, starting off, and then the practical side. Focus on one course until successful. So many times we hear you must diversify your income. We must diversify our time. And the reality is, unless you have a core or solid base, it's very difficult to branch off and do other things well. Jack of all trades, master of none. We've heard that how many times, right? So how do we get to a point where we can really dial in and get something done where it's either automated and doesn't need you anymore, and you've mastered it, you've got the processes down, and that's what it comes down to. It's how do you systematize or get something working well where it's process driven. You may not be the expert in some fields. This is where I'm coming back to collaboration. So practically is how do you incorporate the best of the best to get something done with or without money? Let's forget resources right now. But let's just say, for example, you want to grow a product brand. Okay, well, maybe you don't want to be the person necessarily growing it. Maybe you don't want to be the person that owns the warehouse and does logistics. Maybe you don't want to be the attorney to go out there and finds all the IP and logistics and trademarking stuff. So you incorporate those that are really, really good so you can execute and focus on exactly what it is. Maybe it's sales and strategy, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's distribute, whatever it is that you want to focus on, you do that thing well and you incorporate and blend in, weave in those that are really good at what they do. And when you have that level of focus on the other side, you're normally going to get the results. Focus and consistency, because consistency is the cheat code.
Excellent. Love that. I also agree with this as well. I mean, I think the myth out there is get 7 different income streams and let them all come in. And it's like, but you haven't mastered the first, $1 million, recurring revenue model, right? On a yearly basis, and then mastered the 5 or the 10 million. And I do think once you've mastered that, one of my coaches, named Rory Bay, talks about the power of breaking through what's called Sheehan's wall, right? And Sheehan's wall is basically this invisible wall that if you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. And so you're kind of like, it's like the magnifying glass, right? You're kind of shining at different spots at different times, and you're not really focusing it to break through this wall. And until you break through this wall, you're unknown, and basically you're not making an impact. And so the power of focus in becoming the best in the world at that specific niche. And once you break through and you make those millions of dollars and you scale, right? Then is it wise to diversify? Of course it is, right? Of course it is, right? And is it wise to get 7 different income streams? Yes. But I also think it's also wise, even before taking a step back in that, even when you exit something or when you have major success, that you're building what's called a truly passive income plan, that you have certainty of execution on the one side of the recurring, passive income that doesn't take up your time and your energy. That's a big piece here, right? Because I think a lot of people get stuck in the rich dad, poor dad, upper right quadrant or lower left quadrant, where you're having to actively trade all of this time and energy for what you thought was going to be passive, but it really wasn't passive, right? Getting the 4th quadrant. And so bring this all to full circle here. I think there's stages and of execution for not only your active, multi-million-dollar revenue stream, but then your passive multi-million-dollar revenue stream, or at least your living expenses and your lifestyle, right? 100%. And then the diversification piece. I'm almost thinking of like the millionaires, baby steps, versus the Dave Ramsey one, right? Where it's more like, the traditional budgeting and building it up. What are your thoughts on just, your wealth and your finances and your passive income streams? Or what do you agree or disagree with what I just said?
I think you hit it right on, spot on. So if you baseline out, you can't multiply until you get really good at adding. Some people want to multiply from day one, but you can't. 0 times 0 is 0, right? So you have to have something to multiply from, and you have to baseline that. So once you get something based, I get great. I have a family member right now. And he works a traditional corporate job. They have tons and tons of real estate, and they bought their homes cash, multi-7-figure home, but he still works a 6-figure job, right? Low 6-figure job. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just giving an example of it. But he consistently works that because he's letting everything else multiply. So then in the next several years, when he walks away, he knows exactly where he wants to be. So he has income coming in that maintains everything, the household, the family, the schools for the kids, everything. But he has all of his investments and everything else working toward retirement. So it's not only him working, but his assets are working. So, but he baselined out everything else and he started growing the other verticals. Again, he's very conservative. You'd never know it. It's the millionaire next door guy, right, and his family, and that's what it comes down to. How do you baseline out something so that even if, for example, you have a high risk tolerance, right, and you want to be out there. Like, that's me. I'm a high risk tolerance guy, right? But you still have to have something to make sure that your family's taken care of on a day-to-day basis. How do you make sure that that's taken care of? And they don't have to look left and right. Can we eat this month, or do we hopefully we hit the lottery? We don't want that, right? So that's just my takes. I'm agreeing with you 100% spot on. You create the verticals, but make sure that you can take care of the day-to-day stuff. And I think money comes, there's recurring revenue, there's transactional revenue. So you have these different types of revenue, and just make sure that you at least are in a place, especially if you got family, right? If you're single, you can live out of a car for a while and do some crazy things. But I think everybody's
Got it.
path is different, but you're 100% spot on.
Yeah, got it. And so I'm curious, what is your habit, kind of bringing the exercise to this? What is your habit that helps you clarify and grow your truly passive income?
Yeah. So I always ask the question before I even get into a venture, and I think it leads to this. Is it legal, moral, ethical, and is there a demand in the marketplace? Is it legal, moral, and ethical, and is there a demand in the marketplace? If I can answer those with a degree of certainty and clarity, and I'm not already on my focus lane, then I'll entertain. I'll take the call. I'll entertain the project, right? Or if it's a divine download, I'll go further down that path as well. So that's how I kind of that's my initial litmus test before I go and do due diligence on anything. And so when I go from there, everything for me is I start with the end in mind. It's no different. I remember a teacher when I was in college said, "Hey, you know what, guys? Today, first day of class, you all have A's." And I was like, "How do I have an A? I haven't taken the test yet." Well, you haven't messed anything up. You're in a perfect state right now. So I always operate from the perfect state when I first start something. And then from there, I can work my way backwards, and then I begin working aggressively. So what most people may say takes them 6 months or a year, or maybe 5 years, I try to execute and do things in 90 days by collapsing time. How can I do something that most people are doing in a longer window of time, and I do it in a shorter window of time? Because the only difference between getting to an end result is the activity to make it happen. So I try to do things. I try to put massive action on something when I get involved, and then I just go hard as well. I won't use that term. We go very diligently in order to make that work.
Okay, let's bring that to life. I love all of that mindset piece of it. So what habit do you practice to automate or accelerate time in 90 days for your projects and your initiatives?
So currently, I'll give you an example. Currently right now, we know that we need to nurture customers, right? We need to have customer acquisition. We need to find out their long-term value. Then we need to figure out if there's monthly recurring revenue involved with that. And so we get, okay, what is our cost of acquisition? So we get really good at bringing people on board. And a lot of times it may be through incentives, by discounts. It could be, through influencers. It could be through other avenues like that. But once they're in the house, we try to automate our nurturing of those customers to make them realize that they have value above and beyond their purchase, right? We try to make sure they have value by educating them on the products. And we also try to make sure that they have value by putting them into a community so that they can actually social proof themselves and see that, the longer I'm around or in something, there's still positive benefits. Maybe I don't see a benefit for me today, but I can also see a benefit others are having. So I need to stay in the environment where it's possible for me to get my desired result. So that's what we look at by systemizing things. And maybe you don't have to have your hand on it on a regular basis, but you can put those things in place for it to work for you.
All right, we're speaking with Mark Sterling, everybody. Mark Sterling, everybody. Actually, he's the founder of Newspire, which we're going to dive into right now. You go to newspire.com, NUSPIRA.com. So, Mark, let's bring this kind of home here. You have built multiple businesses, and now the current business you're building, not only is it fit very well for our podcast, because you're building it for scale and for definitely build it for revenue and growth, but also building for impact. So talk about the mission of New Spira and what it's all about, and then what some entrepreneurs or investors that are listening right now might want to take a peek at your business.
Absolutely. So we went to a space that we saw this space probably about 3 years ago, my wife and I. By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't say that she's the co-founder of the company and help me bless the fact that I can actually do this. So New Spira actually, it's a word new like any W. And then Spira comes from the Latin word inspirare. It means breath of wind, inspiration, or breath of God, actually. So we wanted to bring a new inspiration to health and wellness. And how we want to do that is we want to find a daily habit or something that was already in place and leverage that and make that become a delivery system. So we took coffee and then we infused 6 organic mushrooms into our coffee, some of the best mushrooms in the entire world. They're grown in a regenerative way. They're grown in the United States, actually, so we have to worry about too much of the tariffs and the trade things. So we always have a great supply chain. That was important for us. Then we went out and said, you know what, we're going to make it taste like a great product. We didn't realize how big the industry was. I say that fads are bad, but the trend is your friend. This is the mushroom or the healthy alternative space is growing to 67 billion by 2030. It's currently about 25 billion. So again, we have an emerging market we can take advantage of. We don't have to be the biggest, but once we get out there and create the exposure, we can definitely do some pretty good work there. Now, when we did that, now we have to create exposure because I always say exposure leads to closure. How do we get more people to recognize and feel the brand? So one thing we want to do is leverage other people's audiences by creating value. This is an example right here. We're going to get in the podcast and other people are going to get to hear about these incredible products and hopefully they get a chance to try them. What we're noticing is that once somebody becomes a customer and subscription, they're normally with us 4 to 6 months at minimum, and so we're excited about that as well. Starts creating that monthly recurring revenue from subscriptions. And again, who thought about making a food product, a supplement, a subscription-based model? People say, Mark, you're in the health and wellness space. I am, but I'm really a SaaS company that has health and wellness products, right? And so we did that. Then we also took a liquid vitamin. Matter of fact, it's right here. We have a liquid vitamin called Vibe. Brett, it's an acronym for vitamins in a bottle. I got this because my wife had lost her C-level job with a major national health and wellness company 3 years ago, right? And what I saw, she started getting a little bit of anxiety. She was having some health challenges that she had never lost a job before. She took it really personal. It was some really weird things going on at the time. And she was taking vitamins to supplement. She was taking 8, 9 vitamins a day. It was costing about $400 a month. And we said, you know what? She couldn't take all the pills all the time. So I said, I'm all about solving problems. So I said, let's go ahead and put this into a liquid vitamin. 100% of 17 vitamins and minerals, a 1-ounce shot, bioavailable in 30 seconds. Especially if the ladies are listening, biotin, hair and nails, glucosamine, all the things you can think of. And it tastes pretty darn good as well. Here's the funny part, because I know we're biblically based on this call, and we always say it tastes like communion juice with a boost, right? So that's
Nice.
a goofy kind of flavor. And the last thing I want to talk about, some of the things we saw with the coffee. There's another big player in the industry right now, and people, it's very cultural. I mean, it's a very cult, which is good. It's very sticky for their customers, but a lot of them didn't like the taste. And here's the big point: they said, we find it difficult to scoop it. We want to take it with us, the busy person on the go. So we put them in individual stick packs, right? We made it super portable. Tear it open, pour it in hot water. It doesn't get simpler than that. So those are the things we looked at. And our company right now, we bootstrapped this entire thing. And then we found, last part of this, we found a operational partner. And they have warehouses in 8 countries around the world. They actually service 40 countries. So as we begin to grow internationally, we don't have to go out there and create the supply chain. We can literally piggyback off of it that's already in place. Now, do we pay a premium for that? Absolutely. But we're moving from a thought forward. Remember, we're working from the end result backwards. So how do we get to a place where we don't have to build things after it's there and right the ship, but the ship is already in movement and we can actually flow along with that same current?
Amazing. Mark Sterling, everybody, newspire.com. You got to check it out. Again, you got coffee supplements. You've got mushroom coffee. You've got detox drink mixed mango. Talk about this mango detox drink. What's all that all about?
So we have a mango detox drink, and you literally take a sachet. Here it is right here. It's pronounced kive. It's a Hmong word. It means to evacuate. You get that urge to purge when you take it, right? What do we solve for? It's about solving problems. Many people are walking around right now with anywhere from 15 to 50 pounds of unprocessed foods in their system. They get tired about midday around 2 o'clock, many folks do. And it's because the body the night before didn't get a chance to reset and rebalance. So we said, how do we solve for that? Well, we started surveying and queuing people, and they said, you know what, I want to detox when I don't have the time. 2, I have a full schedule, so I got to be careful. I can't go to work and just be, running up to the breast all the time. Normally, detoxes taste very bad. We solve for all that. You pour this into a 16-ounce bottle of water, right? You just shake it up, and it's done. It tastes like mango. I got some friends that come over and watch football games once a week, right? And the guys, some of them want an adult beverage or, they want to try something else. They come over, and I got guys that are drinking this, and they go home, and they feel amazing the next day, and it's absolutely phenomenal. You get a normal urge to purge, as we call it, but on the back end, people are losing weight. That's a byproduct. They feel better, the anti-inflammation benefits. We have a liver cleanse in there with the milk thistle, gut health. It does it all.
I love this. By the way, I do turmeric and ginger. I put it in my smoothies now. I added those things to it. And it's supposed to help with the inflammation and such, which I think is such a big piece that people miss. And
Yes.
so this is I guess a natural supplement, or maybe you could talk a little bit about that. And then do you take it once a day, once a week? Like what's kind of the rhythm?
Yeah, so for the detox, everyone's a little bit different. I'll tell you, my routine is when I first get started, I do about 3 days, once a day.
Okay.
And then after that, I take 1 a week for maintenance. You'd be surprised how much you need your body can get off in 1 week. My wife, for example, does it twice a week.
Okay.
She works out 5 days a week. She eats very clean. But it's just amazing that you kind of reset and rebalance your body. And you can do this very, very naturally by using these as well. These are all natural ingredients.
Okay, go to newspira.com if you want to get started. NUSPIRA.com, newspira.com. By the way, just so everyone knows, coming from the show, I didn't know I was going to talk about Mark until about 2 seconds before the show. And this has been really cool to kind of connect all these things. Mark, what haven't I asked you so far that you want to make sure that we cover for anyone who's listening about your company, about mindset, any things we've been talking about before we kind of shift to the next round of the questions?
Yes, it's never too late to get started. It is never too late to get started. So you remember graduating high school, Brett?
Yes, sir.
There was a valedictorian or salutatorian, and they got up and spoke, and they gave what's called the commencement speech.
Yes.
Many people think that's the last speech. The word commencement means to begin, to commence. It doesn't matter. If you finish something, it's okay to commence. It's okay to move forward. It's never too late to get started. And also at that same event, that was probably the last time that 95% of people in the world were clapped for. I encourage you, I'm letting you know now, if you're within the sound, if you can hear me, if you're in the sound of my voice, I am clapping for you today. I encourage you to commence the day. It's never too late to get started. Why? Because I believe in you, but I believe more importantly in what you do. And you can start doing today.
Love it. All right, let's move to the next round, and then we'll do the lightning round after that. So this next round is all about, and thank you, Mark. I'm inspired, and I feel clapped for, and I feel appreciated. So thank you, and I'm sure everyone else does too. So I want to move towards capital gains tax. Okay, so we're going to get a little technical here, right? Part of our company, we build capital gains tax exit plans so entrepreneurs, business owners, Bitcoin real estate owners can multiply their freedom and impact and basically defer massive capital gains taxes, right? So you build your company, your business for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, to millions or billions of revenue. Well, if you sell it without a proper plan, guess what? 20 to 50% is crushed, right? Yes. I mean, crushed by that tax. And so we build it so they can keep 100% compounding and working for you or them, right? Depending on who's ever exiting. So my question for you is, Mark, when and if you've exited, or those that you know in the entrepreneurial world, what's been the biggest challenge when it comes to capital gains tax, either planning or knowledge, or what's been any strategies that you might want to share?
You hit it right on the head. The biggest challenge for me is not knowing who to leverage, like you, for example, right? I have a friend right now who owns a company. They're probably doing about just under 35 million a year in recurring revenue. They're in the travel space, right? And they have a lot of people that pay a lot of what do you call them? Like travel agents, if you will, right? And so the travel agents go out there and do an amazing job, and they automate their entire systems. And these people sometimes work full time, sometimes work part time, but they bring in tremendous amounts of revenue by way of the travel space. I think last year they did somewhere around $600 million in travel revenue. But again, they get a portion of that back to the company. Now, he's looking to move his program into an ESOP. So he has some of the top folks over there. It'll make them, with their employees, they're going to structure it the proper way. And because it's a subscription model, they're looking at doing an 8 to 10 time multiplier on for their exit. So again, that $30 million could, turn into, upwards of a 9-figure exit. He had to take a lot of time, because it wasn't thought of in advance, to find the right people like you, Brett, to make sure that when he did that he reduced his exposure on capital gains. He found 4 or 5 different ways. I don't know which one he finalized on, but we had an entire conversation. But it took him 6 to 8 months. Here's the reality: what if somebody came to him and they had to make that decision that week, and he wasn't ready? So how do we get to a place where we find the right expertise that we talked about early in the podcast, and make sure that they're in place? How do you start from the end game and work your way back? I'll be very transparent. We'd love to when we get to a certain amount monthly, when that first 8-figure month, and we go, faster than that for our sales. We know where 3 to 5 years our exit is going to be, and it's going to all happen. We got the first 4 to 6 countries laid out already where it's going to happen, and when it does, we already have people in place that are going to say, help us make sure that we're protected. I won't say protected. We reduce our exposure legally to have the least amount of impact, especially for taxes.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, love ESOPs, and love if you have the time, the team, and everything to set that up. For those who run out of time, or maybe haven't set up like a C corp for QSBS, or haven't or above $10 million, all these different things here, right? We have a solution, Mark, which is pretty amazing. Like, you can build it And basically within, I call it 30 days, although we've done some deals in 2 weeks, but most people want to find us prior to that, where you can exit using an installment sale method with the trust, defer all the tax, but you can still be an entrepreneur, like without giving to charity, life insurance, or gifting required. You don't have to. It's all optional for those things. But you build it by selling it first to a trust, and the trust sells it to the ultimate buyer. Nice. And we serve the purpose of an entrepreneur who wants to either go to the next business venture or wants to be passive, or a little bit of both. And the key is the team, and the key is the strategy that unlocks whatever desire that entrepreneur has or that impact investor has. If you want to learn more about this, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It works for businesses, Bitcoin, real estate, thousands of transactions at this point, over 30 no-change audits, close to over 30 years, billions of assets sold using it. We call it the most vetted capital gains tax exit plan you never heard of, right? Wow. And so that's what we focus like a laser on. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, you ready for the lightning round?
Let's make it happen. But I want to clarify, I am not a financial expert. Yeah. Make sure you talk to Brett.
Thank you, sir. Moving forward on the lightning round. If you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one goal nugget make sure you tell yourself to do?
I would build bigger and believe bigger faster.
Excellent. Question number 2, number 1 book you've recommended the most in the past year?
In the past year, I would go with The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol.
Excellent. Question number 3, number 1 way you're using ChatGPT.
Well, one more question. Say it again.
Number 1 way you're using ChatGPT or some kind of AI, product.
The number 1 reason why to do it?
What's the number 1 way that you're using like a ChatGPT?
Number 1.
Yeah.
Every day.
And what specifically is the biggest impactful thing you're using it for?
Oh, matter of fact, we're going into a fundraising space with our products, and I want to go out there and make sure that I can mirror match against existing fundraisers, find the gaps and the opportunities, and then solve for them.
Excellent. Next question, number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Leadership quote or theme that I strive to live by. That's a good one. I got so many of them. I'm known as the king of one-liners. We're born looking like our parents, but we die looking like our choices.
I love it. That's so good. Next question. What are you most curious about right now?
I'm most curious about what level of impact will we be at from a service perspective in the next 5 years, because I got big dreams. I'm curious to see them come pass.
Awesome. And then the very last question, Mark, after all your success helping all the people you help, how do you best stay centered in your values and keep a stewardship mindset over ownership?
I don't have to best stay there because I'm already there. I stay grounded in the Word on a daily basis. Everything for me is about giving honor to the one that creates it all. And I realize that I'm not the creator of anything. I may be one that's a vessel and an implementer, but I'm not the creator.
Awesome. Mark Sterling, I want to thank you on the show, sharing your wisdom, dropping tons of wisdom here and insight and inspiration, all of the above. I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts of just that, encouraging people to take action, to make a bigger impact with their health, with their life, with their business, with their mindset. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
You can find us on socials at New Spiro Official. You can find us at our direct website, newspiro.com. And remember, never dream small dreams, because small dreams don't have magic.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening and or watching the Build It to Billions podcast, also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels. And we're on this mission with you to scale from millions to billions so we can give more all of it away to help MVPs, the most vulnerable people. My name is Brett Swarts. I want to encourage you to take action today. Share this with someone who can inspire today. Second, share this with someone who might be exiting a highly appreciated business, real estate, Bitcoin, and have massive capital gains taxes. And if that's you, just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get started on your plan today. Appreciate everyone listening, watching, and we will talk to you again all real soon. Bye now.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.